want to start off with the biggest mistake I made. Now, can you guys read this right here where my mouse is? Do you see that price? Now you might have no context on this, right? And here's the following context. This was a message iContact, big email marketing provider, sent me. You can see here to Nathan Latka. You can read it here on my screen. It's the actual contract, October 20th of 2011. Now, I launched this company. It was called Heyo or Lejour back in the day in 2010. And what this letter is that you're looking at on my screen is iContact saying, Nathan, I'm going to read it, Part B. We'd love to buy your company. The purchase price will be up to $6.5 million and will be paid in the following manner. Now, I thought I was, the best thing since, sliced bread, and decided to turn this offer down, which is one of the biggest mistakes of my life because I went on in that SaaS company to raise a little bit of venture capital. The VCs ended up blocking this deal when I still owned 70% of the company. It was a big mistake. Now, all of these are like, oh, poor me, what a horrible mistake. It still is obviously great traction. So I want to get into the nitty gritty of the first million in sales that we drove. And instead of walking you through countless strategies and trying to tell you guys to be everywhere at all times, I hope you're cool with that. I'm just going to show you one tactic we used over and over again. You've probably heard of it, but I bet you haven't optimized it. Here it is. I know, surprising, right? You look at what's on my screen right now and you go, what is this thing? It looks like a kindergartner drew a line on an Etch-a-Sketch. What is this? Well, what this is the actual formula, the template, the diagram we follow when we gave webinars. We drove $5 million in sales at our first SaaS company. I was 19 at the time, between 2010 and 2015. And so a lot of these sales came through webinars, but it's because we perfected this shape you see on my screen. So here's how it works. Follow along with me here. This is the start, and along the bottom, these are minutes. So 2 minutes, 4 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes in, 40 minutes in, 60 minutes in. And you notice this kind of shape, okay? We'll get into the shape in a second, but first, let me talk through the critical thing that most people ignore on webinars. How many of you guys have been on a webinar before? And do not lie to me. Do not lie to me. How many of you guys have been on a webinar before and you are excited about it, you go into it, but at your first chance you get, you minimize the screen. You forget about it, right? You might even have this minimized right now. You're just listening to my voice. So the trick with any good webinar is you've got to get people not just to register, not just to show up. Hey, Kenneth, I see you in the live chat questions there. Not just to show up, but also engage, watch the end, and then ideally buy. So back to the chart here. I'll put it back up on my screen. How do we use this chart to do that, right? Well, we did it through 3 critical ways. The first way we did it is by encouraging people to do this, these teal spots. So you want to make sure that people listen to you. But here's the problem with that. Most webinars, it's one voice. And this might be happening to you guys right now, and we're only 6 minutes into the presentation. My voice has now sunk into your background. You're passively listening. So what you have to do when you're giving a webinar, a compelling webinar that sells, is once every 10 minutes or so, you have to break the pattern of your voice. So you do that by unmuting somebody else. That's one of the things I love doing here actually on Zoom, but I don't think I can unmute you guys, unfortunately, but you unmute people, right? Second, play a video with someone else's audio. Or lastly, if you have a co-host, let the co-host talk. That breaks up your voice and gets people to re-engage. There's 3 of these tactics. The first is listening. We're going to appeal to all 3 key senses here. So listening, auditory. Second, looking. Again, many of you guys have minimized my screen right now, but do you see this right here? Right where my mouse is? See, I'm using this tactic on you as I do it. Many of you guys just reopen the Zoom window to see what I was pointing at. That's exactly what you want to do. Say, do you see that? Or read this text right here. Or I'm moving to the next slide. This gets people to actually reopen the Zoom or the presentation window, the webinar that they've minimized, and actually look at your slides. You want to use that tactic, one of these 3 keywords, every 10 minutes as well. So we have listening, we have looking. Can you guess what the last one is? The actual interaction, engagement. Again, you want a pattern break once every 10 minutes. The best way to drive engagement on a webinar is to encourage people to take notes, to answer a poll, or I've already done this many times with you guys. Tell me in the questions. Again, I'm in Slack. I'm here on the Zoom. I'm looking at the Q&A. So listening, looking, and interacting. Now, if you're going to take a screenshot from this first part of the webinar, this first part of the presentation here with Predictable Revenue and their crew, this is the money shot. Okay, this is the absolute $1 million webinar formula. Okay, every teal is listening, every purple is looking, and every yellow is interacting, right? Through the first 60 minutes, 45 minutes really. So now you're asking, Nathan, what's the up and the down? Well, this is critical. One of the things and what you need to do is you need to build a story arc in your webinar. You know, a lot of these webinars are so boring. I mean, it's like two co-presenters. There's clearly a massive affiliate deal. It's so boring. It's like a bad demo where you can't ask any questions and you're like sick and tired of it and just want to get out of it. You need to actually entertain like a Netflix movie. So let's say your product that you're selling, actually, I don't know what product you guys are selling. Tell me in the live chat on Slack, what products are you guys selling? I'll see if I can get any real-time feedback here. This might be tricky because I don't know if there's a lag, and Sarah, you can help me out too if you see any coming in. Okay, good. Oh, you guys are in the chat. This is great. So Senzi Steinberger said online courses. Phil Prince said real estate CRM. Sarah Hicks said BDR as a service, recruiting automation, email anti-phishing solution. Okay, let's do Phil Prince. I'm going to pick on you. Is that cool, man? Real estate CRM. So your webinar hierarchy, the storytelling, is going to sound something like this. You always want to start with a negative. I know this sounds horrible, but humans are better wired to pay attention to fear than they are something that feels good. People want to stay alive first, and then they can experience the upside. So you want to start with the fear. So the real estate CRM fear, and you want to start with the littlest fear. The littlest fear, Phil, in your webinar might say, hey guys, I'm Phil. Welcome to my webinar. We're going to talk about real estate CRMs. Now, a lot of you guys jumped on this and you're not quite sure if you should be here. You might actually exit out in the next 60 seconds. But what if I told you this? If you aren't currently using this weird 3-step plan in your real estate CRM, you are missing out on 3 deals each month where we've seen the average commission be $10,000. I want to make sure you don't miss out on that. And then walk through that in the first 5 minutes. You then want to talk about a little high point. So negative point, you're missing the deals. Then fill high point. Our CRM uniquely integrates with your Gmail account, so you don't have to do any data entry, and we're constantly keeping track of your deals. So every morning, you know exactly where to start your day based off who opened and who replied. Right? That's the big win. So Phil, continuing down with your sequence, guys, I'm going to share my screen again here. Continuing down with this sequence, Phil, your next line would be a little bit bigger negative, and then a bigger negative, and then a really big, big, big negative. So the big, big, big negative, at this point, you're at minute 30 to 35 in the webinar. You might say, did you guys know when you look at all the real estate agents in the country, the top 5% in terms of gross earners all spend at least an hour a day in their CRM. Not only that, they spend almost $30,000 a year updating and maintaining their CRM. And watch this, Phil, we're going to pivot to the positive. What if I told you there was a way to get the same CRM that these rock stars were using for just $1,000 a year, right? Or whatever. I'm using him as an example, guys, but you all should be doing this mental model. A negative, something bad, something bad, something bad, something bad, then what you solve, what you solve, what you solve, what you solve, right? And then here's what happens. At minute 45, you put up your pitch. And then you mute yourself and you say, hey guys, go here to this link to purchase. And when you see these sales start coming in, you unmute people who have purchased, right? So I might see, for example, there's nothing for sale on this webinar, but let's say that I see Pablo with Global Trade Management is in the chat. Pablo, I might see you purchase. I'd say, Pablo, I saw you just purchased on our back end for, $100 a month. I'm going to unmute you. Pablo, why the heck did you purchase on a webinar? No one buys anything, especially a real estate CRM on a webinar. Why'd you buy? And Pablo's going to go, oh my gosh, I've always wondered how these top earners do it. I just decided to purchase. I'm like the small guy down here in Austin, Texas. I can't wait to get going. And you see other people start buying. And then when people stop buying from Pablo's testimonial, you mute Pablo and you unmute someone else who bought. And then guys, this becomes like HGTV. You unmute people at the end of the webinar who purchased. You let them brag about your product and why they purchased, and it drives more sales. This is the exact formula that we used Okay, when we were growing our first $1 million at my first SaaS company, heyo,